Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm glad to be here with you all. I'm so happy to be doing these workshops with you guys because I know they're so needed. So I'm going to try and make this fun and interactive for you guys. And you guys are a lucky group today because I also have some freebie giveaway items for you as part of our webinar that I think is going to really help out with the topics that we're covering today. So let me know who you all are. If you'd like, we can utilize the chat here. I'll be putting up some info there as well. The links for you will be in there as well during this presentation. So if you can, go ahead and just put in the chat for me, what your business is, who you are, where you're from, and maybe how long you've been in business, because this always helps me as well to have kind of tailor the content to you as I go along as well. It helps me to know who I'm talking to, and I can help tailor some of the content towards you as well. There will be time for questions at the end, which will be very helpful to you. That's your time really to get in there and ask me any questions specifically for your business around branding, okay? So that is today's topic is brand strategies for 2021. I know 2021 is already almost over. That's crazy to me, but we still have a lot of work to do, right? And you still have a lot of marketing to do. It's gonna be the holiday season. So I don't know how many of your businesses really thrive around the holidays, or you have things that you're gonna be promoting, but this is still the last quarter of the year is usually a really big push in marketing. So we want to make sure that you feel good. You feel like you're ready to go out there and do it and make the most of the last few months of the year. So yeah, I really hope this workshop is helpful to you all. If you feel comfortable, please feel free to turn on your video as well. I love to see your happy, shining faces, and lets me know that we're all here together if you're comfortable, okay? Some of you might be having lunch right now. That's totally fine too. I brought my coffee, so we're all ready to go. But yeah, let me know in the chat where you're from, how long you've been in business, and what your business is there as well. And then that's also where you'll be able to place your questions at any time. I'll remind you as well. Okay, so let's get started. I'll dive in with you here. Oh, also to give you a little background, if you weren't here last week, my name's Amanda. I'm the founder and CEO of SmokeFire Media, which is a culturally competent marketing, PR, and advertising agency based here in Phoenix, Arizona. And my background is I'm Hopi, Dene, and Latina. That's kind of how our whole mix here came into the clients that we serve. And really what our whole mission is for SmokeFire Media is to help bring the undercommunicated voices in our communities to the forefront using digital media tools. And I help business owners like yourselves tell their story from their unique cultural perspective. And so all we do is work with Native and Latino communities, markets, and business owners. That's our sole focus, is around you guys and how we can help you better tell your story. So we've been doing this work for now about 7 years, and it's been a whirlwind ride, but I love helping small business owners like yourselves to really get a good handle on their marketing and understand that from their cultural perspective, because we as Native peoples have a very different view a lot of times looking at things around business. Yeah, we want to make money, but we're also serving a purpose and usually really giving back with a lot of what we do in our business centered around community. So that being said, I'll go ahead and dive in here. We have about an hour for the presentation, and I'll leave time at the end for questions as well, as many as you have or as few as you have. Okay, and I'll welcome those from you here towards the end of the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let's get started. Here, I'm going to present that. There we go. All right, so we have, like I said, we're talking about branding, okay? Last week we talked about just real basic marketing 101. It's kind of what we went over. What is it? Why do we need a marketing strategy? How do you create a marketing strategy? All of that. So we really dive deep into the marketing strategy and marketing plan that you want to have for your business. We went over the different components for it. And now we're diving deeper into one of the main areas that a lot of people have questions in is around branding. What does that mean? And and how do I do it for my business? We had some questions about that last week, and now's our time to keep building on it. So you didn't need to be here last week to get what we're talking about today, but I'm just giving you a little recap there of what was talked about in the last session, and hopefully Caitlin can share that recording with you as well, so you can see how the two really mesh together. So today on our agenda, we have Branding 101. We're going to talk, like I said, real basics on what is branding, what's going on there. What does that mean? We're going to talk about creating a brand narrative, why you need one, and getting to know your ICP, which is short for your ideal client profile. We touched a bit about this too, about knowing your audience last week. And we're going to dive even more into that today. And then we're going to talk about choosing targeted and intentional messaging, okay, as part of knowing your brand. Once you do know it, you'll be able to utilize your messaging so much better, and it's going to be pinpointed to the people you want to talk to the most. All right, so let's get started. Very basic question. The first one top of mind, right, is what is a brand and why do I need one? We're going to get into some myths here, I'm sure, too, as a lot of you have heard, and I'm going to start busting each one of them because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So, and it's probably the easiest to start with what a brand is not, because I know that you guys have probably the first thing that's coming to your mind right now is my brand is the logo, it's the fonts, it's my colors, it's my cute pics, it's my website. But actually, my friends, it is none of those things. Those are the visual aspects. Those are what we call the visual identity of your brand, but it is actually not those things. It goes much deeper than that. And this is where a lot of people tend to struggle. And what happens when we think that our brand is solely the visual pieces, it tends to have a very short shelf life, okay, because you haven't done the foundational work yet to create a strong brand. So I'm going to go through this line by line and help you understand why that is. So again, like I said, your brand is not any of those visual items, the logo, the fonts, colors, all of that. It's not about you, actually. Yes, your brand is a representation of your business and the products and services that you provide to your clients, but it's not all about you, okay? Your brand actually equals your values plus your story, your brand narrative, aligned to an ideal client, okay? All of those things need to be a part of that formula. Otherwise, your brand is going to have some weak points. And sometimes, eventually, you will struggle with how to reach people or why your brand doesn't speak directly to the audience you're trying to reach, things like that. So the whole point of creating a strong brand is so that when you're not in the room, people remember you, okay? That's a good sign of a strong brand. So the first point there, a strong, memorable brand will have people remembering you when you're not in the room. So that's what I always say. It's not actually what you think your brand is. All of those, like I said, the visual pieces, it's what people say about you when you're not around. How do they remember you? Do they actually remember what you do, the services you provide? How do you make them feel that they remember your business and what you do? That's really what your true brand is, the impression that you're leaving with people. So if you begin to think of your brand as a person, right, this kind of helps as well. How do you want people to experience your company, your services, or your products? Okay, so when we start to think about it as a person, you can say, well, it has this kind of personality, it has this kind of attitude, it has these values, and that will help you start to pull those out a little bit easier when you start to think of it as an actual person, that your brand is a person. Okay, because usually you can describe those things about any kind of person. Oh, they're very kind, they're very nice. Well, how about your business's brand? Is it straightforward? Is it progressive? Is it a risk taker type of person? Are they very outgoing? Are they bold? Are they kind of quiet and very gentle and very welcoming, things like that? So that's kind of, you can start to think of your brand as a person, and that will help you in the next areas when we talk about their brand narrative. So the visuals, as I was saying, those you don't want to dismiss. I'm not dismissing any of that. The like, oh, you don't need a logo and fonts, all of that. No, not at all. They are very important. However, they are purely superficial and weak on their own. This is what I was saying before. They can't stand on their own. If any of you have known someone, or maybe you've done it yourself in the past, and not knocking any of that, is you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times what we're told as new business owners is like, oh, what do we need to do when we start a business? I need to get out there to get my business cards. I need to get a logo. I just need to put up a website and then just start selling. Yeah, that works. That totally works. You know, in the very beginning, you're just trying to start up and get stuff out there. Great. And this is typically how I find a lot of my clients that I work with have gone through this cycle. They just needed to get stuff out there. They needed to start making sales. And then later on, as they begin to grow, then they have the time and then some resources to start to spend and look at their overall marketing, or reevaluate their brand and come back and really look at it and say, is this a good representation of me? So that's just how the life cycle of business goes. Great. But now you know better, right? Now you can say that, all right, I've grown a little bit, and now I can invest in actually creating a solid brand for my company. So because those visuals, what tends to happen if you only have those things, they don't speak to the heart of your purpose and your mission of your business, okay? And what I see will happen with clients when they solely, you know, they've only had those pieces for so many years, it shifts a lot. It will be like 1 year, oh, we really like this logo. Oh, we changed our mind and we like this other logo. And when that happens, people are getting mixed messages from you and your company. They're not really getting a strong sense of who are you? Why do you have different logos going on? Why is stuff changing all the time? And that's just because there's no solid foundation to that brand. But that's the outcome that will happen if all we focus on are the visuals. So what I recommend for that reason, and this is how I work with all of my clients, is that we do the strong foundational work for your brand first, and then we focus on the visuals, because that's really how you get the strongest brand effect, is that you've done the foundational work to understand what your story is and what the true values of the company are. And then that whole story informs the visual identity of your brand, okay? All of that will help shape the visual pieces for your brand and help it last as long as possible, because it's always telling the story that you've created around that brand narrative. So that's how we work. When I work with clients, is we do narrative first, then we start working on, then you can do all of I call them like the icing on the cake. It's the cherry on top, right? It's the nice, pretty stuff that dresses the outside of the cake. But you can't have a cake without the actual cake inside, right? So that's really when I talk to people, and every time I educate someone about brands, your brand is not those visual pieces. It starts first with your values, a story, and an ideal client. So, and I've already started going into this already because I'm ahead of myself. What's the importance of having a strong, established brand? Well, we talked a little bit on that point about is what people remember you by when you're not in the room, but also this is what is the outcome when you do or do not have a strong brand. Okay, if you're struggling with this a little bit now or in the past, you could be experiencing all of these things right now. Maybe you had some logos, you had some photos and a website, but you have no idea who your target audience is. That's a key piece. Like, who am I actually talking to with all these? Or I'm not attracting the kind of clients I want to attract. You may have an old brand that no longer fits your company or your missions or services because you've just been using the same thing for years and years, and it really doesn't represent maybe what your company is anymore. Maybe you have a pretty brand, like you focused on all of the things that you wanted to make it and how it represents you, but you don't really know how to make it relatable to your clients yet, that they identify with it. You might also feel that your brand is disorganized and has no consistency in the messaging or the look or the feel. Or I hear this also from clients, I just don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing with my brand. And that's why they start seeking help. So all of those things are issues connected to your brand identity. If you're feeling any of those happening to you, it's connected to your branding. right? So I definitely can say and speak to this from personal experience that failure to establish your brand will result in long-term effects, which can include things like having a business identity crisis because you, again, don't feel like you know where to take your brand or how people view it. Money is out the door because you keep changing elements of your brand to fit whatever you feel like it is right now. You're paying always for new logos, new materials, all that stuff, and it still doesn't feel like it fits you. That's money out the door. You might be struggling to attract your ideal clients because you just don't know where your messaging is landing with them. And you can experience an inability to scale your brand online. So you're having, now it's relating and affecting your sales, okay? And a misalignment in your audience, which is overall a misalignment in your strategy and a misalignment in your presence. So all of those things stem from an unestablished or a weak brand. Okay, now I know it sounds kind of severe, and you're like, well, I don't think it's that important. I don't see how it's really affecting me. But really, this is a lot of what I see when my clients begin to grow, and they need to have a strong message. They need to have a strong way of putting themselves out there. Is when they're ready to grow, they need to be able to tell people who they are and what they're about right in 10 seconds flat, things like that. And so that's really where you will start to see a peak of this issue coming right up at you, because branding is kind of like one of those low priority things until you actually really need it and you're ready to grow and you don't have it. Okay, so it is there. Maybe you just haven't noticed it yet, or you haven't had the time to notice it, but it is there. So sounds scary again, but it's all right. I have news. All of these are 100% fixable. None of it is like you can't do anything about it. And I'm going to help you navigate around these areas so that you can get pointed in the right direction. So a brand narrative is our first tool. This is, again, that area that I mentioned to you before, the very first thing that we start working on with my clients. What is a brand narrative? Why do I even need this thing? I've never heard of it before. So that brand narrative is a key foundation of your brand and figuring out how you'll separate yourself from the competition in your market. Okay, so if you've ever been to marketing workshops and things like that before, they're always talking about what's your strategic advantage, or how do you stand out, what's your niche, right? All of those things should be well laid out in like a brand narrative. So I know a lot of places, like I said, you go to these workshops and things, they'll tell you this, but they don't actually show you how to do it. So today I'm actually going to show you how to do that. But so the brand narrative, the whole point is to lay this out in a story form, like you're actually writing it out, like this is who I am, what I'm about, give your background. And it's a long form type of written piece that you will continue to draw on in all of your marketing, no matter what you're doing, social media, a website, printed materials. This one piece can be the basis of the very beginning of all of your marketing foundation. So it's very, very important. So you would start with writing down your vision, your overall vision for impact, and your personal journey story. Where did you come from? Why did you start this business? Why is it so important to you to be doing what you're doing? Whether it's, creating baked goods, these baked creations that you really love that are made from scratch, or maybe it's jewelry, and maybe it's your arts, whatever it is. Why is that so important to you to make it your whole life? You could be doing anything else, literally, right? So let people know why that is that you choose to have this business and why it's so important. Then you can start to nail down your specialty. This is the key area, especially for your messaging, of what makes you and your business different from anything else out there. Okay, even if say you're a jeweler and there's tons of other jewelers out there, especially native jewelers, things like that, you still can always find some way which makes you and your product different. Is it the customer service area? Is it a specialty design or a special kind of materials that you use that others don't really have? Okay, even if you know that there's others out there that do a lot of the same that you do, you can find a way that you stand out above others, okay? And even if you know that you're like, well, it's really like, I don't know, we kind of do this, and I know a lot of people that do it, and I don't know how I'm supposed to tell people that I'm the only one doing this. It's fine. You're not going to be the only one doing it. The point is that you're probably going to be the only one telling about it in the way that you're telling your story about it, and that's what helps you stand out, okay? Even that strong messaging is going to help you stand out above others in your field. So we got the story, we have a vision, we have a specialty. Next, we need to write down your values, the values of and this is of the business, which are an extension of your personal values, I'm sure, but it needs specifically be about the values, mission, or the pillars of service of your business. What can people, your ideal clients, expect to experience from you when they buy from your business? Okay, is it that you are trying to go all green and all of your zero waste or something like that? Your products are made with zero waste and everything's environmentally friendly, something like that. Are your values that you have exceptional customer service and that people can come to you and they're going to be held, handheld, especially, sorry, that's my dog in the background. You hear a bunch of noises. And maybe they can expect to have a very customized experience from you every single interaction they have with you, and that makes you memorable, okay? Those are things that are particular to your business, and you want to build those, that's your whole experience of how people interact with your business, okay? And they will also be key things that guide your message and directly attract your ideal clients. Great. Why do we need to attract ideal clients? What the heck are even those? What does that mean? So we have an understanding now of what the heck is a branding foundation. So let's tie that to that ideal client profile piece. Remember our equation that we talked about. Your brand, your strong brand is your values plus your brand narrative tied to an ideal client. Okay, this is interchangeable with other things you probably heard a lot of people talk about: target audience, your niche, your market segment, all of those things. They're talking about the same person. It's all the ideal audience that you're trying to reach that needs your product or service. Okay, that's who they are, and they're the main people that you want to work with in your business. So defining your target market, you may or may not already know who your ICP is, but it's always a best practice to conduct market research all the time. It never ends. Okay, I'm going to drill that point in again. Always be conducting market research in your business. You probably already do it and you don't even know it. You just don't think of it as market research. Okay, because great market research answers important questions like, who are they? Very basic. What do they want from you? How do they perceive you and your brand? What do they struggle with related to your projects, your products or service? Like, do they not really understand it? Do they not really get what's going on there? How much are they willing to pay? That's really important, right? A lot of my clients' number one questions are, I don't know where to start with my pricing, or I keep getting price cut by other competitors. That's a huge thing that we deal with all the time. I'm going to move this little control thing. Oh, hey, there we go. And how badly do they need your products or service? Okay, do they need to buy from you all the time because it's something that is like a consumable product, or maybe it's got a longer shelf life and they don't buy all the time? So all of those things are going to influence not only your marketing, but your pricing and your sales strategy with them. Okay. And again, I know I'm talking in a lot of marketing jargon here, but you probably do this stuff already. When you're making conversation with people and say you're selling at a market or something, and you just start chit-chatting with people and they tell you, yeah, I've bought this before from somebody and this, I didn't like that, or what have you. Or they might say like, oh yeah, I found this over here, but it's cheaper. And so will you make a deal with me because I like yours better, but I can find it cheaper? Those kinds of questions, those are all marketing conversations, guys, all of those. And so once you get really fine-tuned into doing great market research, you won't have problems like really having, honing in on what is it this client needs to know. Sorry, this is my dog. He wants to join the conversation right now. Hey, sit down, mister. All right, so getting to know your ideal client profile is huge. It's key in all of your marketing, okay? And we're going to be doing market research all the time, asking these kinds of questions. All right, next we have, so here's a great, just very simple market research flow for how to start to get to know your ideal client. Okay, so an ideal client, when I say ideal, rather than just client and just any client, your ideal client is one that's in your specialized area, in that niche market that you want to serve, okay? Because in our marketing, we're not trying to talk to everybody in the world. We don't actually want to be talking to everybody in the world, because then you're not actually really specializing or talking to anyone. Okay, that's kind of the catch-22 with marketing. You're like, yeah, I want to sell all over the place and to everybody. But actually you don't, because not everyone's going to understand your product. Not everyone's going to want it or understand your market. And so this is why we have niches. This is why we have specialty areas. Okay, and so those people that fall in your specialty area, in your niche, those are going to be the clients you want to get to know. And what takes it a step further and how they become an ideal client is that they would be clients that you would absolutely love to work with, okay? These people will not price cut you. They love your story, love your brand. They are repeat customers. They don't make it difficult for you to come and to do business with them. Okay, there should be none of that. That's what makes an absolute ideal client. And you know that if you had 100 of those same kind of client, you would just be in heaven. You would be like in the best spot in your business, because you'd have no problems with them, right? Selling to them, telling your story, or they just get it. They get why you're here. They get why your product is needed, and they don't like have a lot, there's no resistance there, because you're attracting them. You have something they want and need, and they're all there for it. That's what makes them ideal, okay? Rather than just a client. All right, so that's really who we're trying to reach here. And if you've never had them before, I'm gonna tell you, having an ideal client, you'll know when you've had an ideal client versus just a meh client, because like I said, all those things will just feel so aligned, will feel so great, and they're just a joy to interact with, okay? So we wanna have as many of those as possible. Right? So getting to know them and how we find them is through market research. So here's a cool little quick, easy flow. I keep everything very simple when I'm teaching business owners about how to strengthen their marketing foundation. Keep it super simple. So a simple market research flow might look something like this. Okay, so number one, we create content. That's like our social media, right? Our social media, maybe you create a blog on your website, things like that. Then step two is to create compelling CTAs, or calls to action. That's what CTA stands for, calls to action. How you actually get people to engage with or take action on the messages that you put out there. And I don't mean always selling, okay? That's not what I'm talking about here. Calls to action are not always calls to sell, all right? There's a difference. So we create those calls to action, but you got to have to know how your marketing funnel works to help pull people along in the buying journey, okay? So we start to do that with engaging with clients and incentivizing them and asking them real pertinent questions. Again, those always looking for feedback, okay? So engaging them might look like they comment on a post or something like that, and you say, yeah, thank you. You kind of have a little chit chat conversation in the comments or things like that. You want to incentivize them different times in their buying journey. So, giving them discounts, one-time discount just for following your channel, or a discount for signing up for your email list, something like that. Those are nice little incentives. Even giving little freebies away, for them performing some kind of action on your marketing, okay? And then asking questions, again, hitting people up in the DMs and saying, hey, thanks for commenting or interacting with our content. We'd love to hear back from you on what you really want to see this fall and for these holiday seasons. Would you love, if you like our products, we're thinking about doing these other flavors or these other scents. I don't know, maybe they're like candles. Which one would you really love to see? And those are all kinds of questions you should be putting in your marketing and messaging out there to get feedback. Number 4, get in the DMs. I just touched on this, actually reaching out to people one-to-one in their direct messages and starting to survey them, asking them those really important marketing questions. And again, we're not doing this any real like sleazy, salesy, oh, and then you can buy now, and you can buy now. That is not the whole purpose. The whole purpose is to build relationships, guys. That's all of what marketing is. That's all of what sales is building relationships for the long term. I can't stress this enough. You're not there to just create a transaction. You're there to build long-term relationships, build community with your marketing and with your messaging, and you'll always have a very strong marketing funnel, a strong sales pipeline, and you'll always be attracting then the clients that you really want to talk to, okay? But the more you just keep sell, that's just, that's like repellent for anybody. And I'm sure you all have experienced that at some point in time. That's the sleazy salesperson interaction. We don't want to be that at all. So choosing your message, once you've done that hard work, like I said, you've gone through, created the brand narrative, you started doing your market research, you're going to have so much more information now. You're going to have those tools like ammunition, ammo, that's ammo to your marketing, okay, is all of what you need to get your messaging out there. But you can't get to this point without doing those other pieces first. I'm going to keep stressing that. You got to do the hard work of your building your foundation, your brand narrative, your market research are key to everything in your marketing. You don't have that, you're sitting in deep waters and no life raft, okay? So once we have our brand foundation, we know who our ideal client audience is, awesome. We made it to this awesome point now where we can actually choose the best messaging perfectly aligned to our target audience, okay? Because we have all this information, like I said, we did the hard work, we got all the feedback from them. Now we can actually choose targeted messages. What do we want to say to them, okay? Once you know what your ICP needs, your ideal client needs, this part is going to be so simple. It's a piece of cake because you just start speaking directly to their needs, their wants, and their pain points, okay? So as like an example, like I said, you start surveying people about your products and you're saying, so what do you like the most about this product? A, B, and C. Can you give me some specifics? Or would you really like to see this kind of, scent or flavor? And why is that? That kind of, would you buy if we did this kind of a thing? Those are really important questions. And once you have those answers, you can spit that right back out and say, hey guys, we're thinking of doing this. Here's all the details that we're going to roll out for you all. But you don't have any of that info if you haven't done your market research. Okay, so your consistent targeted messaging will align with your values, and it will also tell people, number one, where you stand. Okay, I can't stress this enough as well. You got to own it. You have to own your brand. You have to own your messaging and where you're coming from. This lets people know what you're about and what they can come to you for. Clearly define your place in the market. All of those things will help you stand out above the crowd because so many people are just out there again, and we've all seen this as well, just sell, whatever I can get out to you, I'm going to get out to you. You're just trying to conduct a transaction. We don't want to do that. We're going to start attracting people to our brand by telling them where we come from, telling them what's important to us. When you buy from our company, this is how it benefits our community. When you buy from our company, this is what where your dollars go to. And that's what really starts to attract people and set you apart from other people in your market. Okay, you start to build authority around your brand that isn't gimmicky. Again, getting away from all the sleazy sales area, and you're starting to tell people, hey, I've been doing this for X amount of years. We are experts, we're professionals, we know what we're doing, and this is how we show you in our branding, in our story. Okay, the proof is like in the pudding, so to speak. And you start to focus on how to help and be of service rather than just the appearance of your content. Because I guarantee you, this is another big pain point I have with a lot of clients that are just trying to get around the, oh, but it doesn't look professional enough, or, oh, I don't want to put it out there unless it looks a certain way. No, or, oh, I don't want to be in front of the camera. That's a huge one a lot of times, as I'm sure a lot of you experience. But this is where you start to connect the best way possible with your ideal clients, is when you want to actually help them, when you show that you really care about helping relieve some kind of a pain point for them, how you want to be of service for them, just showing them that you care. That is huge, and building people's confidence in your brand. Okay. So all of those things, once you've done all of those things in your messaging, in your targeted messaging, those literally do half of the sales work for you. Okay, because no longer are people that removes doubt. They're not doubting that you're just out there to get a sale. They're not doubting anymore that they're just a transaction to you. They should feel by this point, once you've gone through all of those bullets and really done the hard work in your messaging to build trust, then people really don't have a lot to come back and debate with you about in your sales. Okay, because once they've gone to that point, they're pretty much ready to buy from you. All right. So this is why branding and your messaging, all of that hard work is so important. It does half of the sales work for you. Okay. It cuts through all of that noise. And so I have, let's see, I think I don't have much more content. I want to go back here really quick. Yeah. So what I have two gifts for you. This first one here is a 30-minute brand strategy session. I offer these a lot of times in my webinar after this webinar, because a lot of people have questions on this one, guys. I know that there's so many things that come up and you want to know how to get started and all of that. So two gifts I have for you today. And the first one's going to be a 30-minute, just a free session for you to call me and set up a meeting with me individually, and we can go through like, oh, I've tried this, I've tried that, and I just don't know how to put myself out there. And I will help give you, some pinpointed recommendations on what you can do today to start building your brand in the way that you want to do it. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to questions, but I'm going to put that link up here in the chat really quick. In the chat, where you can book that 30-minute session with me. And also, guys, my second gift to you all is I'm going to actually give you the brand narrative worksheet that I take my clients through, that they actually work through and complete all of those areas that I talked to you about. Creating your mission, your vision, where you work through and create your brand narrative, and then those values are all in one sheet. So I'm going to put that link in here for you. You can download it and start working on it today after this session, right? And start actually building your brand narrative, okay? And you're going to feel so much better in your messaging areas than you've ever felt before. So here's that link for the brand narrative. Go ahead and download that before the end of the session today, because it won't be up there afterwards. And then I'll leave it open for questions now. What questions do you guys have specifically around the branding areas? And then also pop in the link to set up a free strategy session with me as well here once I go and find it. But yeah, go ahead and put any questions in there in the chat, or you can take yourself off mute if you feel like you'd rather just speak it rather than write it all out. Because I know that's a lot of information. I try and really go through and make it really simple, but I know it's still a lot. All right, and then there's the link now for the 30-minute strategy call, the branding strategy call. Yeah, and all we'll do is I'll hop in, ask you some questions, you'll tell me what's going on, and I'll give you answers. Simple as that. Cool. So you have those two resources up there for you guys. What questions do you guys have specifically today that I can get answered for you right away? Anything that you've experienced in your branding or lack thereof, or how you want to begin building your brand online. A lot of people had to transition everything away from in-person last year to now online. Now people are doing both, right? And so, yeah, it's helped a lot of companies transition their businesses solely to marketing online. So anything in those areas, I'm open to answering. Don't be shy, guys. I know we're all not on video right now too. Maybe you don't feel like you want to speak up in front of the group, but that's okay. We have a nice little cozy, intimate group here. So please don't feel shy. This is your time to get anything answered that you've had questions on in your marketing. I won't even limit it to branding, because some of you might have been in the marketing session last week and you're like, oh, I have questions from that one. It's fine. We'll just leave it open to anything in your marketing and branding and sales.
I had a question real quick.
Oh, sure. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I got kicked off earlier.
Yeah, no problem.
No, so with branding, and especially like, um, do you brand the same with if you were selling because there's like there's some things that are culturally sensitive and there's some and you know some people do sell to people off the nation. No, I think my question was just like I mean just branding it, branding the product so that it's accessible to everyone. Um, and then yeah, um,
Got it. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I've had this question come up a lot too, because some of my clients, like you said, you know, don't always sell to Native communities and things like that, but they are Native and they want it to feel like it's coming from them, but they want to have it be open and not feel like they're closing anyone off. Is that kind of in the realm of like what you're asking here too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when that happens, usually so we're distinguishing between the brand narrative and your messaging. Okay. So the brand narrative, that's really where you're telling everybody all about your business and all about, like I said, that story, where you come from, what makes your mission and your purpose important. That's really where you can establish that cultural piece, right? That you're either an authority in that area or you specialize in that way, right? So that's where that happens. Now, the other piece that you're talking about is the messaging. That's what connects you with the whole outer world, right? Which could be native, non-native, all of that. And so typically what we'll do is, and we talked about this a little bit in the last session, that's where it becomes really important, that market research of when you're talking to people to find out how do they perceive those things. Because I guarantee you, making your branding and your story talk about the cultural piece is not going to push anyone away in and of itself. What will push people away or close other people off to you is if you specifically say in your marketing, oh, this is only for these people. This is only for this market. Okay. So good messaging when you're doing it, in the way that we format it in the brand narrative, you'll be more telling a story and inviting people to come and learn about what you do. You're not shutting anybody off. Okay. So that's really where I would start first, is the brand narrative. Number one, get your story down and your purpose and your mission down first. Then you would do that market research. You would, we talked a little bit about ideal client profiles in the last session, but that's really where the other piece comes from, because most of the time you're not just talking to one kind of audience. May be talking to multiple, right? Maybe you do sell to tribal members, but you also sell to non-native, like you said, off the nation members, and they want two completely different things from you, or they see you in different ways. Okay, and so we have, there's ways that we'll create a whole profile around them, around what do they buy, what does each one buy from you, how does each one interact with your brand, but they'll both be getting the same brand narrative. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's starting to make sense now.
Yeah, so you got to start with your story first, telling that where you stand, what's your position, in your arts or whatever it is that you do, what makes you different, and then you can start to direct that messaging in slightly different ways to those two different people. So, for instance, maybe the tribal clients, they only buy certain things and they want it in a certain way, and you can tailor your messaging to them in that way. So maybe you have social media posts, you have emails that go out and say, all right, for our tribal clients, we have this promotion going on, or we'll be offering this and that from these times and these times. So come and, reach out to us for that. And that's how you can tailor it to them. This is mainly for our tribal audiences or something like that. And then the other times, say maybe in social media, you could be putting out more general information that's to everybody. They could be native, they could be non-native, and it still talks to everybody. But that way you're not closing anyone out, and you're letting people know what they can come to you for. Does that help?
Yeah, no, it helps a lot. And my head's just spinning because for I'm the farm manager and mentor to Ajo Center for Sustainable Agriculture. And so I've been to the farmers markets. I've done farmers markets, and then now I'm starting to have a brick and mortar store, and now really getting people, that are from the tribe, and then people who are passing through, going down, going somewhere else. It's really how do you. No, I can reach the people who understand it, but then and then reaching the people who don't understand it. So just really, and then and also just that creative side, that understanding our products that are not universal, but have so many uses. Now how do you brand that? For us, like today we had a partnership that happened with San Xavier Co-Op, and us going out and harvesting squash, and then knowing that squash can be used for so many different things. Yeah, how do you market that? I guess my head is just spinning from like, oh, squash, and then people just think, oh, it's like baby squash and you can chop it up, but then how do you market the full-grown squash? For us, the big seller for some of us that do the full-grown squash, it's like elders know what it is, and because they grew up with it. And for younger generations, they didn't grow up with it because they didn't have that access to the food. But then we have people who are just doing really amazing things with it. So, I guess narrowing it down and marketing, what your product can be used for.
Yeah.
But then try not to limit it and say, well, you can use it for this, you can use it for that. One example is like squash, the big full-grown squash. Elders, would just cook it and get the guts out, and then put it in a condensed milk, add sugar or honey, and that was their dessert. Versus for us, we started marketing squash as something sweet, but yet again in a baked good. And then several years ago, we had a gathering where we had our local culinary school out in Ajo make squash raviolis with our squash.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so yeah, you just kind of see where my head's going. Where now, how do you market something that's so universal or branded? Now, do you stick to that one thing, or do you try to explain everything?
Yeah, well, I would say again, it all goes back to the brand narrative first. So download that sheet that I put up there for you. That's going to be your first place because the company or the business or whatever, the organization that you're a part of that's doing the marketing of the squash, that's what the story needs to start first. Like why squash, why these products, if you have other products, why these products, and then you can get into, the rest of it is all the messaging. So all those things that you talked about how it can be used, who's using it, how it, traditionally was used, that's all part of your messaging as well. And so it doesn't need necessarily a different brand for each of those pieces. It's all part of the same brand. It's just you're demonstrating the different uses. And usually this would be a part of that marketing strategy area that we talked about last week, was actually then deciding what are all of our content pillars. Okay, that's what we call content pillars for how we get all the information out there. So maybe it's a blog and also social media, and we use I don't know, like newsletters or something like that. Those are all content types, but you're telling the story through all of those different areas, and they're reaching different people. And so that's how you begin to build out and share the many uses, all the information, but in a structured way. Okay, so that's kind of what's hard in the beginning, is just like you said, wrapping your head around, we have so much to say, but we don't know how to do it. And it's just really a matter of, like I said, it's hard because you have all these things on your mind, but building from each step by step, the marketing strategy, the brand narrative, and each of those pieces in place are part of your marketing foundation. And once they're there, though, it is tough in the beginning, but once they're there, they're going to always be there. And once you start to get used to it, you're going to see how everything just flows really well, and how it just helps you have structure to all of that story, all of that information. Okay, so I would definitely recommend download that brand narrative sheet, sign up for that brand strategy call with me. If you have more questions, I'd love to answer them. But yeah, it is a lot, and that's why we're having these workshops, right? I know it's so much information.
No, thank you. And yeah, I missed the first one, but I'll probably go back into the recording and watch it.
Yeah, for sure. This is a good one.
Yeah, no, I much appreciate it. This really kind of just, no, it really helps, especially when people are starting out and or people who are still doing it. Just moving closer to, how people see food. How do we market? How do we get this going? And who are we marketing it to?
Yeah.
So thank you so much. It helps.
Yes, my pleasure. No, I'm glad to be here. Like I said, all the work I do is for you guys, and I work with so many of our Indigenous small business owners, from anywhere from startup stage to national organizations or bigger companies that have been around for 20 plus years. And as I mentioned before in our last session, marketing never ends. It's a cycle. So whether you decide to address that cycle now and take full ownership over it now, or 20 years from now when you're still struggling with it and it's still being a pain in the butt for you, at some point you do need to address it. And because it's a huge cornerstone, it's a huge piece of owning a business, of running an organization. It's just how you're getting the message out there to people. So I am happy to answer any questions you guys have. But yeah, again, feel free to put in the chat, unmute yourself, or just sign up for a strategy session with me. And I think, yeah, it's here. Okay. So I'm guessing if we don't have any other questions, Ms. Caitlin, do you want to close us out and let people know about the next one? Or if we want to wait for some more question time, I'm open to either one.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any other questions, if they want to put them in the chat box or unmute themselves. We will be having another workshop. It will be on sales. That will be on Wednesday, September 22nd, again at noon from 1 to 1:30. I will be sharing that via our Facebook page, and I can put the link to that again in the chat. Do that right now. That will be shared sometime this week, so that way people can register and get and be sure to sign up for that.
Yeah. And then real quick before we go to, I should do this since I want to make sure everyone has all the information they need. I'm going to share my screen really quick to show you what that brand narrative worksheet looks like, just so I can help walk through that with anyone. So this is what the download is that I put the link in the chat there for you for the brand narrative worksheet. It says Native Brand Accelerator on it because that's my coaching program. That's where I take business owners through a whole 90-day program where we go through all of these things that we're talking about with you guys. I coach and work with them on that. So this is one of the worksheets from our program as we go through it. So it has the instructions all in here for you. As you guys notice on page 1, we start with the story and the vision for creating impact. And there's a whole paragraph there for your instructions on what you want to start with. And it's completely editable. And so just the way I always advise people, because sometimes I have clients as well that just, they don't like writing, or they feel it's confronting. They're like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't want to just put this thing down and it doesn't sound right. This is a working, living document, guys. Okay. It's meant to be not only done and edited once, but reworked over and over and over again until you feel it's the best representation of you and your organization. Okay. So even if you do it once, just to get it done out of the way, and you're like, okay, we can use this for now, and maybe come back in a few months and you're like, oh, but I want to update it now because I feel like it's not completely where I want it to be, then you can rework it and redo it again. Okay. But it's here to give you that structure that I was talking about, to start framing your story, to help you tell that story in a more structured way. Okay. So the first part, again, story and vision for creating impact. That's your why this is important to you. Why do you do what you do? Why did you start your business? Or what's your purpose here? Then the next area is your specialty. And again, we had talked about, this is what people usually call your strategic advantage, but it can be anything like your traditional knowledge of a product that other people don't have. It can be a special process or a method that you use that other people can't duplicate. Anything like that makes your product or service stand out. Or even, again, maybe it's just the knowledge that you have, but pick the strongest differentiator, the strongest thing that will help set you out. And that's what we want to have and to be as our specialty. But it can't rely on anyone else. Okay. It has to be something that's not dependent on another organization or another product or something like that. It has to be inherent to the one thing you're doing. Okay. So and I give an example there. An example of like how I use that in my business is SmokeFire Media specializes in culturally competent marketing, PR, and advertising services. Okay. Our specialty is the culturally competent piece in the marketing and PR. Okay. So that's an example of how you want to choose your strongest differentiator and how you would put it into your messaging in your mission statement there. Then we go into your values. This is, again, the business values. They might be a part of your own personal as well, but you need to translate it into how that's interacted, how that's experienced by people in your business or organization. Okay. And I give examples there again of some good values, business values that would be help setting you apart would be that you are local first, or you're by native first. You have superior service compared to your competitors, things like that. Okay, but what are people going to experience from you that they're not going to experience, say, and always, it can be the same as other businesses too, but what can they expect specifically from you? And then we have the mission piece here, which is also very key. Because a lot of people, this can throw you off if you have written mission statements before, or even if you haven't. It's like, how is that different from the vision? Well, I give you a simple little formula in there to help you organize what's the mission statement. This can also be really handy and used as an elevator pitch statement. Okay, so when you're talking to someone new, as you mentioned, Sterling, you're like, how do I tell people that don't understand who we are, what we do? This is that key piece. This would be the one area that the one message you hone in and focus in on. It should be lightning focused into your messaging, and it sums up everything that you're about in a quick, simple statement. That's what an elevator pitch is. And this would be your key piece is your mission. Okay, so I go in and how to formulate that. It can be a little bit longer, so there's like the whole 30-second spiel, and it should be able to cut down into like a 10-second spiel as well. But this will help you rework that mission statement area so that you can tell people that have no idea about you in just a few seconds, and they'll have a roundabout general gist of your organization and what you're about. Okay, rather than having to start from scratch and you're like, oh, I don't know how to explain it. This would be every single time consistent. You don't change it. You start to commit it to memory, and that's what you put out there every time you talk to someone about your organization. Okay, so that's why a mission statement is very important. So again, a living document, guys. Take it, run with it, download it. It's up there for you guys, and I do take my clients through all of that every time they're in the program with me. So yeah, just go in there and have at it.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and doing this workshop again, or the next workshop. And we're looking forward to the next workshop again on September 22nd with sales. And hopefully everybody here can join us, and we'll share it again on our Facebook page and with the registration link. And yeah, we'll see you all then.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you for coming. And thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you.